Welcome to Thought Leader Life, where we are helping to democratize thought leadership. Join us each week where we interview a new thought leader about what it takes to become and maintain thought leadership in a number of different vertical markets. To learn more, check out www.thoughtleaderlife.com. Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and welcome to episode 155 of Thought Leader Life, where I have a month with Ronan Leonard, and we're talking about, I almost got that name right, Ronan Leonard. Leonard, there we go. And we're talking about masterminding from a number of different perspectives. And Ronan, thanks for this being your focus and for bringing on some super high quality guests to talk about it. Welcome.
Thank you, Mitchell. Well, they do say your network is your net worth, and there's no greater networker that I know at the moment than Cory Warfield. So great to have him here and get his insights into, again, the mastermind perspective and his deep understanding of several of the ideas that we're going to discuss today.
Cory, you're a pretty cool chap. I enjoyed our pre-interview conversation. Love who you are and what you do. And for those, there's two things. Let's start off with, before we even say who you are, we'll do that second. Why don't you just say, what does masterminding mean to you? Just this open-ended question. And then if you wanted to slip in who you were, if not, we'll ask you about it afterwards.
Sure. Well, I guess, to me, mastermind really is almost a mindset. And I can more so talk about what it's not. And that's one person standing at the front of the class or kind of telling people what they should care about. I think there's so many options for people to really come into their own selves anymore. And I think masterminding is really about finding people that are very like-minded and then letting that group kind of find the people that have been there and taken it to a next level. And then kind of understanding that you can go down different, not rabbit holes, but in different directions to get closer and closer to groups that can truly lift you to those next levels. And then, what you do from those levels is you help others come up with you while you seek to find that next group of those that are like-minded. And then you find the next person that's reached the next level. And it really is just this growth mechanism where you can do it with, the people change. You're not going to have the same people in all the same classrooms or in all the same masterminds or in your life for more than a season or a chapter sometimes, but everyone's growing. And I think, people tend to see each other in a mastermind group for some time, then see each other down the road, whether it's in another mastermind or, they found two different roles in the same company. But I really do think it's really just kind of a way to think about growth, not from the perspective of it's you in a sea of information or it's you being told what to think, but really, leveraging your network and your community and the available tools, which have gotten to be so significant with the internet and social media. And I mean, it's at this point, there's almost not, there's no excuse not to be doing some type of masterminding, right? And once you find people with whom that concept and that term resonates with, you're already halfway there. It's kind of been my experience. So I do have a way of running a little bit long on words, but that's kind of my it's my 1 cent, but in 5 cents worth of length.
Dude, nobody would ever notice. So, but given that definition of that, and it's chock full of aha messages. So that's when I listen, that's what I'm listening for. Tell me, who is Cory Warfield? What are you about?
Yeah, so I'm kind of, I come into a lot of what I do now with zero expertise. So I waited at tables and worked in restaurants 20 years. So I don't know how to sell a thing. My sales cycle was walking up to a table of people who were hungry, decided that's the kind of food they wanted to do, the price point, and didn't have an option about who their waiter was. I was there, and here I am. And literally, my sales cycle was, what do you want to eat and how should we cook it for you? That was it. Do you have any allergies? And so I don't know how to sell, but somehow, I started and grew a SaaS company. We're a B2B company called Shedwell, and we help companies manage their employees online, and we're growing pretty quickly at the moment. And the way, kind of our aha moment for me as a leader was, I realized that as much as I thought I was terrible at sales, it was on my shoulders to go sell. And I kind of had a couple of people that have had some multi-billion-dollar exits that kind of have come into my world and said, Cory, what the heck are you doing? Like, why would you have a sales team when you're only doing $1,000 in monthly revenue? Go out there and 10x that on your own. And, just these kind of So boom, I just had to jump into the sales position or leadership as well. I ran some restaurant corporations, at kind of that corporate level for some time, and that was leadership to an extent. But again, people would, and this will show my age, people would fax the P&L reports, and I would check and see the labor percentages and kind of see who needed to order more wine, and that was my job, right? It wasn't real leadership. I wasn't inspiring anybody. And so after 20 years of no business acumen, really no, I was able to make six figures, but that was it. Like no real wins professionally. I started a company and I had to learn a lot, and I had to learn it fast. And that kind of is where the mastermind methodology and framework helped me go in 3 years to being a guy that, waited his last table at a steakhouse to someone that now serves on 20 boards, whether they be advisory or board of directors. And now we've raised some fair amounts of money for some companies, and some are making a lot and some are going to sell for amounts that I actually didn't think used to be real numbers, period. So it's been fun. And it's been because of my network and kind of being able to be a chameleon and go through some accelerator programs and learn how to speak publicly and speak to people that make books that help people have epiphanies, not to distill it down to a 4-letter word, but aha, and so both of you on the call have helped me along my journey. And now my approaching 50,000 person network on LinkedIn, they teach me all the time, and I think a lot of them don't realize that we are networking to the extent that we're masterminding. And I think once you kind of put the title on it, and especially, it sounds silly, it took me so long to figure this out, but once you find people that are willing to spend a little bit of money on it, right? Like it's when you're a certain age, you're supposed to go and you learn, and it costs money. And when you find adults that are kind of willing to invest in themselves as well, things start to really click. And once you become very savvy as to your time is money as well, and you have limited or not so limited resources, but things are finite. And once you decide to put time and money into something to get to the next level, and you're surrounding yourself with people that either are doing the same thing or they've done that. Nobody that I know with high net worths with really fun cars at this point didn't invest time and money in themselves and their development and their growth. And it's slightly unfair, and one of my ventures is seeking to change this, but it's almost unfair yet that once you have money, because you've invested money in yourself, then you have more money to invest more into yourself, and then you've got more time, because it's this cycle, right? At a certain point, you can afford all the time and money to get to the next level very easily, and then it becomes like having a cheat code in a video game. But that's been my experience so far, and it's really, Mastermind is a great, I don't know of a better just one word, catch-all title than for my experience than Mastermind. So again, feel free to get an air horn and.
So Ronan, you got it, man. You got the what is, but I heard you say a 4-letter word or an epiphany, and aha is 3 letters. So I just thought I'd mention it. So Ronan, I'm going to set you up for you ask the next question, but I thought I mentioned so just so you could see it. I got a trademark for aha that.
Yeah.
And this week, I ended up getting a trademark for aha book. So I just thought I'd mention AHA book. So anyhow, so it's not a 4-letter word unless, you're unhappy with your ability to communicate effectively. But I like the vulnerability that you have in how you present and who you are in this humble component of what you've been able to do, and it's phenomenal. Ronan, do you want to take it in the direction you wanted to cover?
Yeah, Cory, I want to sort of talk about, to me, learning doesn't happen until something changes or shifts. And you've gone through, I would say, a massive shift from 3-4 years ago. Would you agree that on that statement, and what was just the one biggest impact for you along your journey that shifted you from working in a restaurant to becoming this global entrepreneur that really is a super connector?
Yeah, I think for me, and it may sound somewhat cliche, and then we'll get back to the fact that the AHA is aha, although it's a great play on words for the, to represent the 4-letter word of AHAA. But no, I stand corrected, Mitchell. I just wanted to give you a hard time.
No,
But,
I just thought I'd mention it.
no, I'm glad you did.
Some people say potato, some people say potato, so it's really not a problem.
Yeah, and some people fry them and eat them with ketchup. And you're up in Canada, they put mayonnaise on them as well, if I recall correctly.
Yikes.
But it's funny that I say that to say this. For me, I think it was actually just the clarity of humility and understanding that humility can be a best practice for business, because once you become humble, you realize you don't know it all. And that's when you start to find people that do, maybe not know it all, but know what you need to know. And then once, I think the humility just keeps going deeper and deeper to get you higher and higher, because the more that you're willing to admit, like, wait, I suck at sales, why don't I get a sales coach? Okay. And you go and you hire a sales coach and you vet him or her first. And in my case, her, but you find somebody, they teach you how to sell, and then you go out and it's like, wow, this is fun. And you would have never known how to do it. And the one-on-one thing is great, but the group thing is even better. It's like, there are people that are, well, I've tried this and this and it didn't work. And that's when the magic really happens, is when you can learn in a group setting and have that hive mind and have people kind of collectively say, this and this might work, this and this definitely doesn't, try it if you want to, and at a certain point, once you can hear that sincerity, you're like, no, this person's really been there. I don't want to do that. You can really learn from each other's mistakes. And that, I think, is what the moment of clarity for me was just being humble enough to know that I needed to seek people out that could help me. Because I think so many people just either, decide to go to college again, or just go on YouTube and look at videos. And I don't know how they pick, what videos they're going to watch and who they deem as an expert. But I think really getting yourself where there is that social proof and that collective consciousness. And then when you put yourself in those situations, it's also someone that's actually at the next level, because so many times I've seen, and I've now learned to successfully get out of the situations where it is the blind leading the blind. If it's 20 people that want to learn how to sell, it's going to be really difficult to necessarily, get there. You might be able to all talk about what doesn't work, but until someone comes and says, let me show you what does work and let me show you how I do it. And then people can try it and fine tune it. And I think it really is just that. I guess collective consciousness would be a good way to frame what I'm trying to ramble
about. Well, you could actually sell while you're sailing, but you could also sell while you're golfing. But I was still kind of curious about, I like the context versus content thought that you were sort of bringing up, Ronan. And that is, it's learning from others, but learning within the context in which they're presenting. What does that, Cory, what does that mean? How does that work?
Well, I think on a simple level, it goes back to the selling while sailing, right? Like if you're on a sailboat with somebody and you know that they're trying to get you to buy into a certain investment, or that they want you as a client, it's a lot different than getting out into the middle of the lake or in the middle of the sea and having someone start pitching you. And I think through that context as well, if you're learning from someone and you might even be paying them, and it turns out they're trying to sell you on their next course and their next course, that might be a much different agenda. Or and I think you just need to know that. You can go into that. There are people that put all their fancy cars in a garage on YouTube, and people pay them a lot of money to find out how they did that. And it turns out at the end of the
I have to tell you, that sort of sales process never excited me. I kind of shy away from people who say, here's what I have and you can have it too. I run. I know there's a world that goes after that. Ronan, what do you think about that as an approach?
Yeah, it's incredibly inauthentic. When I worked in casinos, I saw a lot of people sort of gamble with more money than some people earn in a year and not blink an eyelid. So I was a studier of the human psyche. So you see all sorts. But yeah, to say, hey, look, I earn this much, those YouTube videos, look, hey, I earn this much, you can too, is BS. I mean, Cory, you've come up with a completely different way. You've really sort of flipped that on its head, and you've become this giver first, with the expectation and knowing full well that you are such a good giver that it comes back onto you. And as a result, I just want to touch on return on intellect. Is one of the sort of things that really sort of resonated with you. Did you feel that in your first 20 years, did you ever sort of look at yourself and saying, there's potential for more. There's a shift there, and am I getting my best return on intellect?
Well, I'm that guy where in the 90s in high school, my dad was a high school teacher at a different school. I was in advanced place courses. I had an A rating. I went to a college on a full academic scholarship. And then there was just this huge disconnect. I didn't like college. It was bad for me at that time. Some things happened in my family. I literally went crazy. And this is 25 years ago. And I ended up being homeless for a year, living on the streets, getting, beat up and getting in trouble and all these things, and, asking for change on the streets and not eating for days. And so I think it's a really different and unique perspective, right? To have seen literal rock bottom. And what I can tell you is I had just stopped learning. And for years I stopped learning. And it really took me to where I wanted to get out of rock bottom. And I started learning about food and wine and started working my way up into restaurants and making enough money to help my parents with their, they were separated, but my mom with her mortgage, and like all these things that I never thought I'd be able to accomplish as a young homeless person. And I do think that was the catalyst of like, wait, if I just learn about wine and become a sommelier, I can get an $80,000 a year salary. Like it literally just seemed, and every year it was just learn this or that. And the opportunities kept presenting themselves. And I think what I was able to do is understand that these opportunities don't just present themselves to everybody, and you seize them when you can. And I think that working my way up all those years and kind of then just having some stability. I've now been with my wife 10 years. We've been in our house for 10 years. We've had our biggest dog for 10 years. Like the stability, I think, was great after having kind of lived a life of such instability. But I think the giver mentality for me is just, people talk about karma, people talk about energies and frequencies and all these different, you can talk about different ideologies for days, but at the end of the day, as you mature, you start to do what works. And for me, I was finding that the people that were giving to me freely were the ones that seemed to be getting more and more and more. And then when I inadvertently or accidentally was giving as well, I would always get. And when I worked in a restaurant, it's so bizarre. There was a homeless guy, and again, I hadn't been homeless in almost a decade. I'd see him and I'd just show him some respect. And when I could, I'd give him some money. And a few times I gave him fair amounts of money, $20, $50, like not so much for me at the time, but a lot for him. And it was the strangest thing. Those days when I would just give him a little bit more than maybe I would have other times, I'd go into work and I would literally, I kid you not, somewhere I have physical evidence of this, I would get like $10,000 extra tips. Apologies to your listeners. My dogs have some pretty big mouths sometimes.
Not a problem.
But it was the most bizarre thing ever, and it happened often. And then maybe at that point they were tipping more like the $1,000. It was a group of guys, and they would come in whenever I saw this homeless guy, and clearly, But then there was one time I saw him on the street, and his eye was just yellow and crusty, and he had medicine, and he didn't know how to put it in, and I don't know how he got the medicine. But I put these drops in his eye, and he was just filthy and dirty. He'd slept on the streets. And that day I went in and I got the biggest tip I've ever gotten. And they ended up taking me to the Bulls game. They took me out of the restaurant early, took me to the Bulls game in one of the Skybox suites. Then took me to Las Vegas on a private jet. Like quite literally, we stayed at the Wynn back when there was one tower. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. But it was every time that I did this so it was a no-brainer. Like, oh, just be nice to people and go out of your way. And not to say every time I've done little things or big things, whatever they might be to people, that it always comes back right away. But what I did realize at a certain point is it was always without expectation. It's not like I go back and give them $100 to see if I can get an even bigger tip. It was always just random. But at a certain point, I realized, I'm like, wait, every time, these guys happen to come in, and candidly, just so that your listeners don't think that this is normal, turns out I did not know this. Those regulars of mine ended up getting in humongous trouble for embezzling $100 million. One killed himself, and one's in federal prison. So you don't just get $10,000 tips. They don't fall out of the sky like medicinal eye drops for a guy named Troy on Lake in Clark. But it was out of a buck, right? It literally. There are people that don't believe the story right now that are listening to it. But so for me, it kind of just became that apparent. And in business as well, the mentors and my accelerators that had sold their companies for hundreds of $millions were back helping me out for free. And it's just kind of like, oh. And then those are the people that win the lottery. And, they never win the tens of millions. So thank God that goes. But they hit the $100,000 lottery ticket. Like, that's amazing, right? Like it's just so evident to me. And so it's been proven to me so many times, and it's always when you're not looking for it, but life does have a way of reminding you. And a friend of mine and myself are doing a webinar tomorrow on how to grow LinkedIn, because my following just keeps growing. Like I don't know where these people come from, and I love them all. But he keeps saying success leaves clues, and I love that as well, kind of through the return on intellect, framework, or some of the things that we talk about.
Well, that was where do you go from here, Ronan? I'm still stuck at the embezzling, but let's let that one go. Okay.
Well, let's touch on Cory's Mentor You, because one of the things I think your return on intellect is you now paying some of that forward in your short entrepreneurial career, because it is, for most people, it's quite short, just the 3 years. You're already giving back. You're not saying, let's wait until I retire, or let's wait until I exit and then sort of give back. You're giving back already. And we talked about the flipped classroom before we came on board, about context to content, which you've already talked about. So I want to know a little bit more about your Mentor You and how you want to inspire and help and teach people.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I love talking about it, because to me it's so exciting, but it ties directly and correlates exactly to what we were just talking about. The more that we keep digging into this Mentor You thing, the more monetization channels just keep presenting themselves. And it's now, this will be Shedwell's position to have a really nice, I mean, we're already talking to our acquisition target, but we'll sell for a good number of, this will be Mentor You has the potential to be by far the biggest thing I'll ever be part of. And it's because these just present themselves, but it truly, my co-founder, Caroline Fernandez, and I literally just wanted to help more people. And at that point, we were each helping about a dozen people, just kind of giving them pro bono consulting and literally giving them 60-minute sessions with objectives. And she's an executive coach, and she's been certified by Marshall Goldsmith and Ariana Huffington. And I mean, she's just amazing. And little old me as well, but I've got this business mind now, at least for startups and bootstrapping and early stage fundraising. So I was helping a number of people. She was helping a number of people. We knew that about each other. We got on a call and we kind of were like, how can we help more people? And it just so happened we'd both had a call within the last few days with different people that we were the wrong person for them. I had a guy that wanted to know about manufacturing, and flash forward a year later, now I actually know a fair amount about manufacturing and have a company that's manufacturing goods. But back then I was the wrong guy. And he was so excited to talk to me and get this pro bono session. And everyone told him, Cory helped him with this, that, and the third. I got on the phone. I'm like, I got nothing. I don't even know who to introduce you to. But if I would have known this ahead of time, I could have saved us both an hour of our life. And I could have maybe spent 30 minutes, looked at my network, found someone that would have been perfect for you. I get a half hour back of my life, and now you've got a session with someone that knows what the hell they're talking about when it comes to, I think he was looking to do drop ship, if I recall correctly. But Caroline had someone as well. They were so excited to get a session with her. And it turns out that they wanted to know how to get a job. And that's not what she does. She works with people that are used to making high six figures, and, helps them either, move vertically or help with new challenges. And she's a mindset, coach. And so we kind of just thought that it was a shame that we wasted these people's times in our own. We thought, wouldn't it be great if you had a platform that could help automate some of that? And now we've got a platform, and we've got an algorithm, and we're working. We've had several hundred people that come through the platform. But as I think we video capture most of the sessions, and we then repurpose those as video, and the video content is gold. And we're building a video library that'll be much like YouTube, with a subscription model like Spotify, and most is available for free. We can monetize with ads. We have premium content. But then we're putting together an online accelerator program where we have 3 tiers to help people build companies. We leverage this content for that. And we're putting together a marketplace where coaches and consultants and authors, and you can sell anything you want from your profile. And now we're very fortunate. We have three of the multi-million, or million plus, I should say, follower influencers that'll all come put profiles on our social component. So you tie in kind of the marketplace with the content, with people wanting to help other people, and then the accelerator model to help people grow companies. And it's already evolving into this beautiful thing. And I'm just so excited about, Ronan, you haven't seen the platform that we now have. It's algorithm based, and it's based on machine learning and neuroscience, but it's the most perfect way to connect anyone in the planet to the right mentor or mastermind. And from there, masterminds are typically not free. However, you can work with the person that leads it, and if it resonates, and if you can't afford it, we actually have a philanthropic arm that we're putting together, as well as a venture arm for some of the companies that come through the accelerator. But that model is tier 2 takes 2%, tier 3 takes 3% of the company. So we graduate companies with the 5% ownership. So we're building a portfolio of ownership. We're making those early stage investments. We are taking some transactional revenue from the marketplace, and then we're monetizing the video content to help more people with it. So that's what it's turned into, out of how can we help more people completely for free? I mean, we didn't want this thing to make a penny when we had the idea. We didn't have the foresight. We're not business people. We just love to help people. But it is turning into this thing that's much bigger than what we had set out to start initially.
Mitchell, it's probably the first time you're hearing this. What sort of aha moments are you getting out of that?
Oh, you're just Cory's just reinforcing the appropriate messaging, right? The messaging is it goes down to sort of a conversation focused on servant leadership. If you serve others first, things will happen. In this particular case, and let me add one more thing here, because this makes sense for masterminding in your book. What often happens is when a present is right in front of us, we often don't see it, right? So if you're waiting at table and you're nice to somebody and they give you a tip, you're waiting for that. Now, if they give you a tip that says, hey, why don't you jump on a plane with me and go to Vegas? That's a normal tip. Many people would say no, right? Because they're like, well, what's the thing? When you're helping somebody and you decide you see somebody else that you want to help, and all of a sudden you start talking and an opportunity for a business pops up, and you still keep the same notions, and then as time goes by, more presents keep coming your way. And as long as you're seeing that, at one point in time, you go, wait a second, I can make money here too. I can help others and make money. So what, Ronan, I think in terms of the context of any mastermind, in terms of the context versus content, in terms of the inverted classroom, in terms of all of these concepts, the thing is, the more people you could talk with about topics which are both relevant for you and relevant for them, where you could see their passion, see what they do. And if you decide you like somebody, which by the way is not hard if you're authentic and vulnerable and do all the things that generate trust, right? You show integrity, authenticity, vulnerability. If you decide that you like somebody, then all of a sudden these opportunities pop up, whether it's today or tomorrow. Right? I mean, you and I, Cory, initially were like, man, there's nothing today, but I like you. Let's play tomorrow. Right? And we were clear to say that up front, and I think, Ronan, what it comes down to is what Cory does is just reinforces the values of the type of person who I personally want to work with, but let's make it bigger. It's the values of the type of people who will be more successful tomorrow than maybe existed in the industrial age.
I'd like to touch on that as well. I'd like to say that it's not what you know that makes you valuable. It's what you either give or what you teach. And I think without even really knowing it, Cory's biggest value proposition is himself. The knowledge is almost sort of catching up to his personality and his giving nature. And the revenue is catching up as well. But you haven't started from that triangle almost. You've pretty much inverted it and gone the other way around. I'm using my genuine spirit of giving and that harmony, and all these things are flowing because of that specific trait that you have.
I'll claim that, because even with Shedwell, we launched as the first free scheduling platform in the world, and I didn't want to charge for it. I wanted to help companies manage all their employees online completely for free, because there are other ways to monetize it. We're launching our staffing component very soon, where you'll be able to get a part-time or a shift worker as a temporary worker, whatever it is. And we have ways to monetize the sales process through this platform, and our time and attendance, just the connection to these payroll companies and POS, we monetize those quite well. So I wanted to launch completely for free, and it turned out we had to charge, and now we're making a fair amount of money charging, even for what I wanted to give away for free. I couldn't give it away for free. It's kind of a free business tip for anybody, is free doesn't sell, and go figure, nobody wanted to invest any money until I started charging. And then, now we've been able to be quite selective with what capital we bring in, and now we don't really need to bring in much more. So it's really been a changing paradigm. But I think even through what you're saying, it's like my company, I wanted to just give and claim that, although I don't think it's ever been intentional, or I don't know that I would have in those heats of the moment said, oh yeah, I'm trying to give anything. Even when I've helped people on LinkedIn, I think I've always known that, good comes from that. And these connections, especially some of the more recent ones that I've been able to leverage, it's come from inadvertent networking. And, you talked to this guy 9 months ago and he had a good experience. And so he introduces you to a friend, and, a couple months later, the two of you talk, and he knows somebody that runs a company. And next thing you know, you're talking about multi-million dollar, transactions, to be candid. It's pretty bizarre.
You're almost running your own little mini masterminds where you come together, it's little sort of groups, and as you said, it might be just a half-hour call that goes away, that resonates, and something comes of it. And the true definition of the mastermind from Napoleon Hill's book is when two or more minds come together, they create this third supermind. So it's ideas. Most of your things have come from ideas. It's that type of collaboration, rather than you sitting in isolation thinking I can figure all this all out myself.
I just had an aha moment. So Ronan, thank you. It's interesting and this is part of networking. This is part of interacting with people. This is part of being successful in today's world. So in the old days, in the Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie days, like how you networked is you'd invite friends to breakfast or lunch, and you'd get to know them over the dinner table or breakfast table, right?
Yeah.
What's fascinating, if I do a half-hour mastermind to get to know Cory, to decide whether or not we want to bring him on as a guest to the show, what I've done before we interacted is I now have access to the internet and all the stuff that Cory wants to present on the internet. I have my give, what I'll say, is I've spent the time to research Cory so that when we have a conversation, we're really talking about the person of who you are, with the context of I already seen how you present yourself. How could we potentially play together? And we start that mastermind session. We start that half hour that we spend together like already running, because we've already looked at each other before we started. And that, Ronan, is really fascinating, because there are so many people. I run into people who want help and want support, but they haven't done the research beforehand. Like if I've already done a webinar that's free or even paid for that focus on a particular topic, and the person's calling me about the topic, it for me to remind them, oh, you should go here and watch this, right? It's just kind of interesting. For the Mentor You, Cory, we got to kind of, I think part of it is we got to kind of remind people to use time valuable. And it doesn't mean, and so to me, what that means is you're meeting with somebody, even if you did 5 or 10 minutes of research ahead of time, you could get so much further along and have such a more robust conversation. And I think that concept, Ronan, you claimed a mini mastermind. So if you could approach every half-hour conversation as a mini mastermind, then how do you prepare for the mastermind? That was my. I gotta play with that more, Cory. What does that mean to you? I want to put that in context, but there's something about that I want to really focus on.
Well, I'm gonna take things a level deeper for a moment. You and I probably spoke 4 months ago, and I'm pretty good with time, so it's probably fairly accurate. Maybe 3.5 months ago. And one of the first things that you said to me is, "You've probably seen my TED Talk," and it was very confident the way that you said that. And I believe that it's very intentional. I believe that there are people that you assume have not seen your TED Talk that you still say, I'm sure you've seen my TED Talk too. And I believe that that's strategic, and I believe that's psychological, and I think it's great. Now, I'm the type where I do diligence before virtually anybody. Now, sometimes it is just 5 minutes to Google their name and see if we're connected on LinkedIn and check the email thread. But there are times where if it's someone that, especially anymore now that I do more and more business, if it's someone that I might be able to introduce to one of my ventures that can, ultimately make me money that I can, help people with or whatever it is, I find that to be my responsibility. So I live on my Google Calendar and I take an hour or two in the morning and I see who I'm going to speak to that day. And so I had seen your TED Talk, and candidly, I'm live, but I'll admit this, I fast forwarded through some of it, although it was amazing, but it wasn't a short TED Talk. And, you hit me at like the busiest time in my life when I was working 20 hours, but I saw some of it, I liked it, and it resonated with me. And so we got on the call, and I knew a bit about you, and I talk a lot about this. It's a bit altruistic, and I don't know how I feel about it, but I went live on LinkedIn right before this call. And my birthday was the other day. I went live on LinkedIn for my birthday, and I was on the field of Soldier Field. And if you're in Chicago and if you're a Bears fan, you're right there in the end zone, and you're right there where all the action happens. And most people never get on that field in their life. And it was my birthday, and I was on LinkedIn Live, and I went. And to my surprise, about 10 minutes after that, and people, if they want to follow me on LinkedIn, they can scroll a couple days back. You'll see the video. But just 10 minutes or so later, the thing had like 10,000 views and 400 people had reacted with it now. It's not just like anymore on there. But I say that to say this. I go live on LinkedIn and I do videos on there so that people have an opportunity to get to know me. I'm now known for doing these 30-second videos. I call them #value30. I've done about 30 of them. I've had about 30 other people do them now as well, completely unsolicited. They just wanted to do them. And my 30 have been viewed about 5 million times, shared about 2,500 times, and had about 100,000 reactions to them, because people love these short videos, and that's all it takes. You go to my profile, you'll see something recent. 30 seconds is all it takes for you to look in my eyes, hear my tone of voice and my sincerity, and candidly get to know if you want to do business with me or if you like me. And some people might not. Some people might not like my intensity. Some people might not like my vibe. And if so, something you said earlier, well, yeah, maybe not, maybe, yeah. But no, it's true that I've got my share of haters, and it's great. I'd rather them not enter my life. I'd rather get to that no before we ever spend, Mitchell, to your point, that time. Let's get to a no. Should we not do business?
But you're so right. I love yeses, my favorite. I absolutely love no's so much better than maybes.
Oh yeah. And I spent a couple years trying to raise money, so that resonates more than anything. I mean, it's just say no. Just especially now. I've got a couple questions that people say they want to put money in. It's, what do you expect my revenue to be? What return are you looking to get? And right there, that's basically, I now know my numbers to know that that's all you really need to know. You care about what revenue is. You want to care what I'm going to exit at. You probably want to know how we're going to do it. And now it's up to you if you want to come in or not, because our valuation, although it's a lot more than it was a few months ago, it's still invest worthy. And so, but it's one of those things, like, we can have these conversations in 30 seconds now. And some of these used to be an hour long, and people want to tell you about their Tesla and how it starts. And then they want to tell you about their hot girlfriend. It's like, I don't know you, and you're not going to invest in me. Why don't I just tell you I'm doing 1,000 in monthly revenue, and I don't think I'll ever sell a damn thing, and you tell me you don't want to invest, and now you go enjoy your Tesla and your 20-year-old girlfriend. I'm gonna go talk to someone that loves that we're looking to disrupt the shift work space, And yeah, I think it really does. We get older, we start to really value our time, and then through that lens, we start to do these masterminds, because what if you can spend half an hour a couple times in your life with a group of people and help you go get a better job or make more money at your job or close more deal flow and make more commission? It's a no-brainer. And there are other people that are spending 3-4 hours a week for 7 months in community college trying to learn how to do something that they probably could have learned in an hour and a half, to be candid. And so I think it really does all come back to time optimization. I love what
Cory,
you said.
I also think it's the ability to know when to purchase knowledge. You both sort of touched on this. We've touched on finding someone on YouTube that says, hey, look at my fancy car and my yacht, you too can have this, versus weeding those out. And I think sounds like you've got much better at finding the right people to pay the knowledge. You talked about interviewing your coaches, all those sorts of things. And I suppose that still ties into to mentor you, and it ties into masterminds, finding the right people to invest in buying knowledge at the right time and getting good at that.
So we're close to the end, but I was searching because I didn't see your birthday on LinkedIn. Was it May 4th?
Yeah, you got it. May the 4th be with you.
So by the way, the reason we like each other, mine's May 7th.
Oh, there you go. My late grandfather was May 5th. He always used to say I was a day older than him. But yeah, we Taurians usually get along pretty well.
Beautiful. Hey, this is lovely, and we have to do this again, but we've come to the end of the time we're supposed to have. So, is based on this conversation, is there something you want to add, or is there a question we should have asked that we didn't, that you'd like to ask yourself and then answer?
Yeah, I think the question that I would ask is not of myself or either of you, but just of your listeners. And that's really and truly, are you following your dreams right now? Because I think all three of us, I know something about both of you and myself. And I think we've taken some pretty big leaps of faith. And I think all of us have now experienced the upside of those. And, listen, sometimes you leap a few times before you take that leap that turns out to be the most amazing leap you've ever taken. But if there are people watching this that aren't really pursuing their ideas right now, or aren't really going after what it is that they've been wanting for days, weeks, months, or years, I really encourage you to reach out to any of us. We'd love to do this. I mean, when Ronan quoted Napoleon Hill earlier with the word two or more, it reminds me of the Bible as well. And where two or more are gathered is also church, but that's the spiritual. But spirituality is awakening and is revelation, and that is knowledge as well. And where two or more, I think I often forget that definition, and every time that might be the grandfather aha moment is that two people can be a mastermind course, and then you amplify that with more. And so I do encourage people to look into masterminds if they're not familiar with them. But really, my question to people is: are you really going after what it is that you think you can accomplish and want? And if so, kudos, let's connect. And if not, it's not too late. And also, let's connect. I'm pretty active on all the social platforms.
And given that, how do people best reach out to you?
Counterintuitively, it's not LinkedIn. I get several thousand notifications a day, and they just all get buried. I purposely have both my email, and it's silly. I've run a couple executive assistants off already, because my email and my cell number are on my LinkedIn profile. I respond pretty well to text messages. People have me on WhatsApp or Telegram or any of these number of international platforms, can reach out that way. But Facebook's another great one as well. And my company, Shedwell.com. My dog said it's time to end the show. But Shedwell.com is a great way to find out about what we're doing with Shedwell. We're in a number of industries, from law enforcement and hospitals and hospitality, but quick serve restaurants are really emerging, and the veterinary clinic, interestingly enough. But quick serve restaurants, if anybody's involved in ownership or leadership with quick serves, we're going to save several companies many millions of dollars this year alone, and we're always looking for those intros. So there was a shameless plug. I apologize for that. But other than that,
apologies necessary. This is the time of the program. You're supposed to ask for that. So good job. And I would say keep me on your list of who you look for every now and then, just so I can be reminded of who to share your way. Sorry, I love that.
Absolutely. I will also share with your audience unsolicited that you and I had such an amazing call that I've been looking forward to this. And I know your time's valuable. We talked about it, but I wouldn't even mind every couple months to have a full on, catch-up call. I look forward to working with you at some point. And if anybody's thinking about working with you and wants to ask someone that's gotten to know you, I'll tell them the only thing that's keeping me from working with you at the very moment is it's a slight time commitment that I'm not quite ready to budget. However, it's coming really soon. You're a priority. And Ronan, I want to thank you for bringing me along on this journey. And I value your friendship. I love that you get to take holiday more often than most people I know yet, and, which is fantastic. I've been a bit busy of late, but I can't wait to actually catch up with you beyond this. And I look forward to seeing where these relationships go, and everyone that's been tuned into the show as well.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you for being a guest today. Really appreciate it.
And Ronan, how would you summarize the show?
I would summarize that Cory is an excellent speaker, has that wealth of knowledge, and I think you touched on it perfectly. By doing the pre-planning, you really get to understand somebody and find out potentially where their aha moments is, where their genius is, and that potential relationship that you want to work together. That's probably what I took out of this.
And how do people reach out to you, Ronan?
LinkedIn's probably the best for me. Ronan Leonard, the mastermind guy, or accountability.io for the website.
And if you want to learn about masterminding, if you have a mastermind or need to do something where potentially you don't want to do physical proximity, but you want to do online masterminding, Ronan's got a piece of software that can help facilitate that for you. And it's a really nice product to take a look at. So definitely feel free to do that. For me, it was beautiful to meet you. I think this session was so different than I thought it would be. Right. And just beyond my expectations, because those that are paying attention, those that are part of the evolution of what's happening with humankind, is recognizing that you could be anyone you want to be. You just have to put your mind to it. Right? Here's a guy who was homeless, who elevated himself to waitering status, who elevated himself to business owner, who elevated himself to, and we'll see where you're going, because I'm going to watch and love watching the trajectory and participating how I can. And, I'm not going to say just because you could do it, anyone do it. I would say just because all of us have done something interesting, there's nothing stopping you from pursuing your dreams, pursuing your passions, pursuing what you do. So if you could figure out how to make ends meet, how to get your financial sponsor who's just paying you for what you do, there's leftover time in the day. Now you could sit around, drink beer and watch TV, or you could actually aggressively participate in some form of mastermind, whether it's one-on-one or a group. Learn more, grow more, do something different, experiment, and figure out where life will take you. And I that's kind of where I left this show. So thank you. I would say reaching out to me, you could go to mitchellevy360.com. So it's just my name, Mitchell, MITCHELLLEVY 360.com. And from there, you can connect to me on whatever social media platform that you want to play on. There's a nice customer testimonial video. And if you want to set up time to talk, because yes, Cory, I will give anyone who wants to chat with me, I'd say please prep ahead of time. You don't have to, but it just helps the conversation. But if you want to, you could also book time on my calendar. And the one shameless plug is, when you're ready, I only need 5 hours to do your book. So that's when you're ready. Okay. So that's the thing for anyone. It's in today's world, it's just so easy to present yourself in a powerful way. And just listening to the two of you guys talk, you do that in spades. And that's what I love doing as well. It's just bringing out that one particular aha moment, that one particular thing that makes you get to a new level. And Cory, you gave, even though we were technically talking about mastermind, you gave a path to business and to life, and it was beautiful. So thank you. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Loved having you on this episode. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Thought Leader Life. Take care, everybody. Bye now. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Thought Leader Life. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and activate us by going to thoughtleaderlife.com/activate. Till next time.